Come here, let me let you in on a little secret. The real key to promoting your music on TikTok in 2025 isn't hidden in the latest trend or algorithmic hacks. It's actually a lot closer to home than you think. A lot of artists, maybe you included, get caught up obsessing over likes, views, and all the numbers. And in doing so, completely lose sight of their true artistic integrity, especially those of you who've been in the game for a long time. The longer you stay in that cycle, the further it pulls you out of alignment and away from why you started making music in the first place. In this video, I'm going to help you correct that by stepping away from the numbers and comparison-obsessed metrics, and instead tap into a strategy reconnected with your artistic flow. Let's dive in. But before we do, if you're watching this because you're trying to figure out how to grow your audience, but you're truly exhausted because you've been struggling with this for years, click the link in the description titled Artist Consultation so that we can chat about what's been blocking you in your strategy and discuss a customized plan to help you through it. Trust me, I've been exactly where you are. I remember hitting that same wall of exhaustion, feeling like I was completely burnt out. But once I made this central shift that I'm going to share with you in this video, my music started to grow in a way that felt genuinely fulfilling. In fact, I went from feeling like I was about to quit music to growing 2 million streams on Spotify this year alone. And I want the same aligned growth for you. All right, let's talk about it. Let's dive in. Now, I wanna get one thing straight before we really get into the meat and potatoes of this video. Even though you're making content to share and promote your music, you are not simply a content creator. And you must understand the psychological difference so you can effectively create content that calls in a community for your music. When you really embody the difference, the whole philosophy of how you approach showing up on social media changes, and the way people respond to you changes. You see, a lot of the advice that we musicians stumble on is aimed at people who want to grow a following just for the sake of numbers. And that's because there's a big gap in how tailored advice around content creation is for musicians specifically. So most of what exists in the zeitgeist of social media marketing is all about how to make the best piece of content to get views. And sure, we need to understand growth at that level. We need to understand how to get views, but there's a big difference between a creator seeking to simply grow a social media platform numerically and an artist who's seeking to grow a social media platform in order to develop a community for and around their music. Really successful content channels across all niches and genres usually provide exceptional entertainment value or informational value. And although both of those forms of value are valuable, they are a bit more passive in essence. In other words, people engage with that content exclusively on the platform itself. What I mean by that is, for example, say someone finds a creator on TikTok that they find highly engaging, they love their content, they'll engage with that user's content on TikTok and return to TikTok when they want more of it. Their relationship with that creator, for the most part, begins and ends inside the platform. That's where they're finding that form of entertainment. We as musicians want a more engaged relationship with our audience. We actually want them to click off of the platform and onto another to stream our music. Or even better, to leave the platform altogether and buy tickets to see us live. That level of ask that we're requiring is inherently much bigger. So for us to successfully achieve this, our value must be much deeper. In other words, it can't exclusively be just about creating good content, because although that's great inside the platform, we actually want them, our viewers, to get off of the platform. We then must pull focus to something a bit deeper that compels a deeper connection. So right now, the first thing I want you to do is zoom out. Instead of placing all of your focus on how to simply create the best content for the platform, I want you to step back and think about the bigger vision. And that brings us to what actually separates good content from really good content, and what separates the typical content creator from a creator who is looking to build something a bit more meaningful like you. And that thing is the what versus the why. What do I mean by that? Let me explain. The problem with most artists and most people creating content is that there is such a hyper focus on the what part of content creation. And when I say the what, I mean what we're doing, the individual actions we take inside each individual piece of content to make it better algorithmically. When we do this, we maintain a surface level connection with the content we create, a shallow connection with the content we create. This is when we are so focused on creating content for a platform that we completely overlook the deeper intention behind what that content is all about and who it's truly for. Because when we really think about it, the platform isn't a person, and if we create content solely focused on what we're creating instead of for whom or for why we create it, then we're missing the point of what makes content resonant in the first place. That's why I want you to shift your focus away from the what and start deeply examining the why. To quote Simon Sinek, the author of Start With Why, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And of course, this is an essential marketing truth for all creators and all marketers, but is especially important for you musicians. We often think if I create good music and if I create good content, people will find it. And yes, that's true to an extent, but good music and good content is just the what of what we do. If we lead with that only and do not get clear on the deeper reasons behind it, in other words, if we focus on the what and not the why, people struggle to connect with it on a higher level or on a deeper level. And when we don't connect with people deeply, it's not only so much harder to compel them to click off of any social media platform and onto our streaming platform, but it also disrupts our song's potential to scale high-level metrics. Understanding how to grow high-level metrics is super important because it can make the difference, be the difference between your song getting a couple thousand streams to a couple 100,000 streams. And we're about to dive into all of that, but before we do, I want to remind you that if you're watching this because you're exhausted and at the brink of burnout because you've been trying to figure out this whole music marketing mumbo jumbo thing for years without the success that you desire, then please click the link in the description below titled Artist Consultation. I use these calls as an opportunity for you and I to meet and create a customized plan to build a streamlined, sustainable strategy for your music. I have an entire coaching program specifically to help you achieve this. If you want to learn more, click the link below. Okay, so now let's talk metrics. The typical metric every artist looks at when they release their song is streams. And yes, stream count is important, but it's not just the amount of streams that matter, it's also, and more importantly, the quality of those streams. You see, Spotify looks not just at the amount of streams, but at the information behind those streams. I like to call these metrics high quality metrics. When our song collects these high quality metrics, Spotify's algorithm is more likely to send those songs to more new listeners. Those high quality metrics include 1, library saves, how many times listeners save your song to their Spotify library. 2, playlist adds, how many times your song is added to unique user playlists. 3, artist follows, how many times a new listener follows your artist page after finding you through your new single. And 4, streams per listener, how many times on average people are listening to your song. If your song collects high-level metrics like these, meaning if people follow you because of the song, add it to their playlists, save it to their libraries, and listen to it a bunch of times in a row, then Spotify will think this is a good song and send it to more new listeners. This is how Spotify determines which songs it adds to its algorithmic playlists with higher discoverability, like for instance, Discover Weekly. And it makes these decisions typically based on the song's performance across the first week to month of its release. That's when this all begins. Take 2 of my singles, for instance. My single Titan released a year ago and has since received close to 80,000 streams, whereas my song Kingdom, released only a few months prior, has received over 300,000 streams. The difference, not the amount of streams the song received in the first few weeks of release, but instead the quality of those streams. As you can see, Titan received significantly more streams than Kingdom during its first week of release, but because Kingdom received higher quality metrics, more saves, playlist adds, and streams per listener, the Spotify algorithm began boosting it out a lot more to a lot more people. And now, a year later, Kingdom is soaring past Titan in streams and discoverability. Again, it's not all about the amount of streams in the beginning, it's the quality of those streams. In other words, it's not about how many streams a song gets, it's about how deeply people connect with your song and generate those higher quality metrics as a result. And that's why we, as artists, benefit much more greatly from a social media strategy that prioritizes deeper connection as opposed to simply surface level entertainment. To go back to the beginning of this video, our strategy benefits greatly from prioritizing the why and not just the what. At this point, I hope I've convinced you that our responsibility as art-first content creators not only benefits from, but nearly requires us to foster a why-driven, deeply connected social media strategy. So now the question is, how can we successfully achieve this in our strategy? And the answer is simple. By truly understanding your story as an artist and how to tell this story across all of your content. We must really dig into your artist story, and I mean sink our teeth into your artist story. Because if we want a social media strategy that has long-term longevity and truly connects with a community, one that compels people to listen to not just one song, but your entire discography, and not just once, but on repeat, we must create a social media strategy that allows people to connect with us and our art on the deepest level possible. This is no longer about creating content simply for the sole purpose of getting people to stream our music, but instead creating a social media strategy that communicates a clear story and efforts to help us build emotional resonance, reputation, and an artist legacy. What you need to do right now is to zoom out so you can understand the macro story of your social strategy at large, the overarching narrative of who you are as an artist that connects everything together, the connective tissue, if you will. Each piece of content that we create then is like a micro story within that bigger macro story, meaning we want our individual pieces of content to each be a little window into our larger macro story. And when our macro story is deeply connected to a larger why, then those micro stories, those individual pieces of content, help build connection one post at a time. We can also see our individual singles as the micro stories and our entire discography at large as the macro story of our music. I really want you to begin seeing your entire ecosystem as an artist, each content strategy rollout, each single release launch as a perpetual unfolding of you, of your story, unveiling chapter by chapter, content by content, song by song. When we dive deeper into our story and access our personal moments of vulnerability, things that have shaped us, things that have transformed us, moments we've alchemized, and share that in our content, it offers a depth far beyond what entertainment alone can offer. That's when people start to connect with us at a higher level. They're no longer simply liking us because we make music they like. They're liking us because they connect to a larger macro story we're telling, the story of our artistry and of our lives. When we're that authentic and transparent, and when we approach social media with an understanding of our artist story in a clear and consistent way, it allows people to bond with us faster. They relate to us. They feel like they're part of the community we're facilitating and the message we're talking about in our music. That's what brings in those higher level metrics, and that is what allows us to grow on social media in a way that supports our growth on the highest level, not simply as content creators, but instead as artists. And if you're watching this really wanting to build your own custom strategy for your music in a way that feels deeply aligned with your artistry, but you also feel extremely overwhelmed at the thought of it since you've been doing this for years and you are just burnt out, please click the link below titled Artist Consultation. That way we can meet, chat through everything that you've struggled with, and figure out how we can help you build that custom infrastructure and strategy together. If this video resonated with you, or if you have any questions, drop a comment below. And of course, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell notification so you do not miss any of our future weekly uploads. Remember, you're not simply promoting music, you're building a legacy, a reputation, and with that, you can build a powerful community. Lead with your story, build that connection, and let the right people find you. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.